It's so great to see you again.
I appreciate you reaching out and giving me an opportunity to talk more.
Yeah, no, I love it. I always love hearing you, whether you're speaking or playing or just chatting on the phone. It's great.
I appreciate that. If you talk to my kids, they'd be like, "Shut up, old man." But
Yeah.
I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
How did you fall into music? Because didn't
um,
you study social work?
yeah, human services. My degree's in human services and psychology, minor in coaching, um, and I fully intended to get my master's degree in social work. But I got the opportunity to work in those fields, and I, to me, work experience trumps the idea of a piece of paper all day, every day. And so, figured there was always time for me to get back into school if I needed it. But the experience that I was getting hands-on was priceless to me. And sitting in one of my offices doing paperwork one day, my boss heard me singing and stuck her head and was like, "Boy, you sing." I was like, "Whatever," because it wasn't on my list. It wasn't anything that I ever thought, because I didn't sound like the people I admired. Um, and she was like, "Nah, my son is starting a blues band. You need to come audition." And through hook and crook, it ended up happening. And 30 some odd years later, here I am,
And that was it Blues
the
Instigators?
Blues Instigators.
Okay, but that's disbanded now. Or has it?
It is and it isn't. I mean, we're all still very, very good friends and still close. It's just that I was the only one that did this full time, you know, I
Do you
and
still
the
perform
drummer.
with them?
When we get a chance, yeah,
Okay.
we make it happen. But everybody's got their, like, Matt Ponick has Electric Kool-Aid, like his band. John Klinkowitz has his electric, Johnny Kilowatt, Ed English, bass player, runs with his wife and the Beaker brothers. He kind of plays with a handful of different groups. And so even the keyboard player, Jeff Daniels, he's with a band or two in the Des Moines area. So everybody has their thing that they're still doing for the most part. Um, the guy that I kind of base a lot of my harmonica playing on, Dan Laughlin, he's just kind of around, and every once in a while he'll sneak in and sit in with somebody from time to time. But he's remarkably talented, a good entertainer as well. But it was just, he just didn't pursue that all the time.
So whose voices did you admire that you thought you don't sound like?
The Marvin Gaye's, the Teddy Pendergrasses, the Luther Vandrosses, you know, all of the really cool soul singer guys. They all had that. There was something that was just remarkably smooth and unique about their voices, and I didn't hear any of that in my own voice. And the lesson that I learned in that and inside of that moment is, as I've grown as an entertainer, is that you can't measure yourself with somebody else's yardstick. You're not trying to be them. You're trying to be the first you. But early in my career, that's where my head was. You know,
And so now you didn't pick up a guitar till you were 30?
well, 27.
27.
Yeah,
Okay.
just before my oldest daughter was born, I picked up a guitar on a Thursday and played my first solo show with it the following Friday.
Wow. So did you know how to play it?
Just enough noise to sing to is all I needed. People weren't coming to watch me play guitar; they were coming to hear me sing, and so I needed enough background sound to sing to.
Well, now fast forward a few years and you were crowned Master of the Blues Universe down in Memphis. So what all, you won the awards, I know, for solo guitar and
Yeah.
harmonica, or tell me
Uh,
what you won.
it's at this thing that they do called the International Blues Challenge, and it's hosted by the Blues Foundation. They're the National Blues Foundation, And every year they have this, every year for the last now 40 years, they've had this competition down in Memphis that they bring in, you're not brought in, you win your way to by winning local contests, but it's a worldwide contest. And so the year that I went, 2018, I had won the Iowa Blues Challenge as a solo act. I competed against 160 acts from around the world that had won their way to Memphis. And there's three categories that a solo duo act could win any accolades. You could be named the best harmonica player, Lee Oscar Harmonica Player of the Year. You win the Cigar Box Award for being the most promising acoustic guitarist. And then the overall competition in the solo duo category. And in the now 40-year history, I'm the only person to sweep all three categories.
Wow. So what doors did that open, or how did that affect your career?
It launched it like a rocket. Honestly, I went from a guy that played 350 to 400 shows a year right here within the state of Iowa for the most part, to getting my first European tours, to getting the opportunity to record and release, become a recording artist. I went into the studio for the first time, signed my first record deal. It got me nominated for Best Recording by an Emerging Artist in Blues. It only took me 27 years to be an overnight sensation in the blues world. Went from that to COVID, of course, as things were skyrocketing. I was actually on tour in California when COVID hit, when all the shutdowns began. And I was performing the day that the shutdown happened. I was performing in San Diego, and I started at 6 o'clock, and I started at 6, and at 7 o'clock, the owner of the venue walked up to me and said, "Hey, Governor says we got to shut down at 7:30. So you're done? Everybody's got to be gone by 7:30. By the way, I'm not paying you, and I'm canceling your hotel room."
Oh my gosh.
And so luckily there were some patrons that were there that heard that, and they went and talked to the owner and took over, just basically took care of me. I was like, "Why are you mad at this guy? He didn't do nothing, but show up and do what you told him to do." But so luckily I was taken care of, but I got on a plane the next day, flew home, and as soon as I turned my phone back on, I had close to $70,000 worth of shows canceled.
Oh man.
And so went from, everything, this was going to be the best year financially that I'd ever had as a musician, to unemployed for the next 2 years.
Wow. So then how did you make ends meet? Because there's not like much to fall back on when you make your money as a professional gig player.
Well, I'm one of those folks. I'm registered as a business owner with the state of Iowa. So because I own the business, I wasn't eligible for unemployment because I own the business. But also because I only have one employee, and that's me, I wasn't eligible for PPP.
Oh.
And so luckily, people were surprisingly generous with online shows. My wife took a job as a personal shopper, like she'd go grocery shopping for folks. And we were able to keep the lights on, eat, and pay our house payment.
Oh, good for you. So when did things start picking back up? Do you feel like are you back to pre-COVID
Not
yet?
quite, not quite. And it's weird because, I didn't think about the effect physically that it would have on me. But I've actually had COVID 4 times.
Oh, goodness.
And it's physically, it takes your stamina. It takes it away. And so the ability to perform at the level night after night after night after night is challenging, to say the least. And so, I mean, I'm not in the best shape on the planet anyway, not that round isn't a beautiful shape, but it's not, I'm not in the best physical condition, and it is magnified from. And I'm not used to that. I still have an athlete's mentality. I just am more meat than muscle, and so pushing through and all of those kinds of things is something I can do. It's just not very comfortable. And so I'll be fine, but I've also got other work, physical work that I have to do to just be a better performer, be a better stage presence.
And how old are you now, if you don't mind telling me?
On Sunday, on Mother's Day, I will turn 55.
Excellent.
Yeah, and so, I don't think I wear it poorly.
Nope.
And so I embrace it. I love the if nothing else, the perception of wisdom that comes with age. I got a few gray hairs coming in, makes me look kind of distinguished.
There you go. We embrace what we have. And
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, very good. So, so what keeps you here instead of going to the greener pastures like Memphis or Louisiana or even Chicago with this big blues scene?
Well, that's the thing. I go to all those places. I'm halfway there already, and that's the thing that I love about here. Is in a 4-hour radius, I'm in St. Louis, I'm in Chicago, I'm in Kansas City, I'm in Omaha, I'm in Sioux Falls, I'm in Minneapolis, I'm in Madison, a little bit further, I'm in Milwaukee, I mean, in a 4-hour radius, I'm where everybody says I should be. So that's nothing. It takes an hour to drive from one side of Chicago to the other. Sometimes 3.
I've been in those situations.
Depending on traffic. So if I can get to downtown Chicago in 3.5, 4 hours, I'm good where I'm at. And and I don't have to be local to Chicago. Because once you're local to Chicago, your price changes too. I mean, it's just like here. Local artists don't get paid what touring artists get paid here. And no matter what places I go to, I'll always be local to here. That's just what's established. And so I'm not mad at that. I don't need to make what they make because I'm going home after the gig.
Yep.
And so I get it. I ain't mad at nobody, but folks are, the opportunities that are coming around here are actually, they're seeing that I'm not just here anymore. They're seeing that, like, next week I'm in Belgium and Germany, for a handful of shows. And I'll be back. But, well, I guess next week I'm actually here. Next week, and then the week after is Belgium and Germany. And so, I mean, to me, that's the cool part of it is I get to go those places. I drive to Chicago to get on the plane, but life is good. I'm good with that.
So when you go to these far-flung places, are people surprised that you're from Iowa?
All the time. All the time. I get the obligatory, it's black people in Iowa, and my response to that is always, well, there was one, but I'm here now. Exactly. I mean, if you're gonna be absurd, I'll be absurd right back. But I mean, bottom line is people don't expect quality from here, and there's a lot of quality, a lot of talented souls. I didn't learn how to do this by just on my own. I learned how to do this by being around a bunch of talented souls. I mean, that are in the whole state, but there's a surprisingly high concentration of very high caliber talent right here in Cedar Rapids. It's amazing to me.
So why do you think that is? Because it's a pretty wide area.
Well, but we have 360 degrees of influence always have. 4 hours is not a very big distance. And even when there was no social media, those acts all came through here to go left, right, or straight. No matter what direction they were headed, eventually they came through Iowa. And so all of those influences came through. It might not have originated here, but it got a chance to drop a seed, or it got an opportunity, you know. And historically, honestly, you know, if people know the history of the town of Cedar Rapids, the state of Iowa, period, going back historically, it was always a hub for like the turn houses, because we're in the center. And so when bands were traveling, you know, towns like Owine and Clinton, Iowa, and Burlington and Waterloo were hubs for the railroad. You know, Cedar Rapids, I think, had a hub for the railroad. And there were times that people would just get stuck. You know, there is lore that, you know, rock and roll had a part of its transformation happened inside the city of Cedar Rapids. You know, there's lore. There's nothing that's written down. But the stories, the oral history exists of Louis Jordan and his band being snowed in here in Cedar Rapids at the time that Cedar Rapids was, at that time, a sundown town. And so black folks couldn't be out after sundown. And so they would spend every night in their rehearsal hall. And they just, when they left, when they were finally able to leave Cedar Rapids, the sound was different. And they said that change in their sound was that swing that kind of started pushing things toward what eventually became rock and roll. That's the story. But the proof of that, I don't know if it's written in any of the annals of any of the music halls. But that's a story that I was told.
It's a great story. So do you find that nowadays, because when I think of the origin of the blues, I think of African Americans and other black folk. Do you see now that it's gone way beyond those to embrace whatever ethnicity gloms onto the blues, or?
Well, there's always a debate about appreciation versus appropriation. You know, there's the argument that brown culture makes things cool and white culture makes them profitable. And that's the appropriations part. Personally, music is one of those things that evolves, and everybody has a story that connects with music. Inside of the world of the segregation of genres, the same stories that get told in blues songs get told in what we call country songs. Mm-hmm. The same stories, you know, the love for, the pining for, the pain of, the whatever, the hard work that it takes, you know, to just be. Those are the same stories. We call one blues and we value it this way. We call one country and we value it this way. You know, this is just my observation. Mm-hmm. You know, but no matter how you slice it, blues didn't exist anyplace else on the planet before it existed in the U.S., before it was born, but because it was born during slavery. Not because of it, but in spite of it. It was a music that started to heal as the wounds were being created. And it is that sound that always, there's no one that isn't, that people can say, I'm not a fan of blues, but I like what you do. I get that a lot. Then you're a fan of blues. You just hadn't heard my blues before. My blues speaks to your soul. That's kind of how it is with every music, though. But we have such a low value that we place on blues that we separate it. I think Buddy Guy said something about at the Grammys, you know, that the Grammys don't exist without blues music. The rock and roll, the hip hop, the rap, all of those things are fruit from this seed. But we treat the seed, we even hold the awards for the seed on a different day.
Oh.
You know, man, you can come to the party, but you can't get in.
Wow.
You know, we inviting you here, but not until this, not until we're done. You know, or you got to leave after you get done because we're going to do your part beforehand, and then the real stuff. Then we're going to have the real music. And that's not cool. You know, we have a sense, you know, essentially we devalue that. Like if somebody said playing at the Paramount tonight is Willie Nelson, Paramount would be sold out in 20 seconds. But if he were alive and we said playing at the Paramount tonight is Willie Dixon, we might have to give people $20 to walk through the door.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, you look at, you know, or somebody like a Bobby Rush. You know, might be the oldest living, like, connection to the original blues. He and Buddy Guy are kind of neck and neck with each other. But I think Mr. Rush is a little bit older. You know, but if we did that, we wouldn't get the same response. We wouldn't have to advertise it. It would just be one person putting one post that Willie Nelson's is playing over here. And that would be full, and it would be sold out in 20 minutes, guaranteed.
Do you see any young or popular artists these days who have a definite blues influence to their sound?
Every one of them.
There you go.
You know, bottom line, if you are doing music to the point where you're exchanging your emotion with the emotion of the audience, you're making that connection, that's the rawest definition of blues.
So I was thinking of somebody like Joe Bonamassa or something like that.
Joe Bonamassa is a monster on guitar, but you know, honestly, Eric Gales, you know, he's my guy. Christone Ingram, Kingfish Ingram, you know, he's 25 years old, 26 years old, just won a Grammy, you know, for his work. I mean, he's incredible. Gosh, I mean, there's a lot of young folks. There's a young group called Memphissippi. A young fella from Memphis and another one from Mississippi, and they call themselves Memphissippi. There's a young guy that he's the Mississippi blues child called Mr. Sip. You know, he's incredible. Coming to town in a couple of weeks or next week, doing a show with me. A young lady by the name of Keisha Pratt. Her band won the International Blues Challenge the year that I won the International Blues Challenge.
Cool.
And so she's my sister from another mister for the rest of my life. And so the opportunity to share stage with her and to invite her into my neighborhood, you know, I just want folks to show up and have fun because she's incredible. You know I'm going to come and I'm going to try and do everything that I've always done, and that's put on the best show I can put on. But I'm bringing my full band, my new band. It's called Big Medicine. We can't cure what you got, but we're going to make you feel better.
Excellent. How many people are in this band?
It's 4 other souls and myself, Eric Douglas, or 3 other souls and myself. 4, because Gibby's going to be playing with us this round. I'm going to feature a couple folks that don't normally play with us, but Eric Douglas is going to be on drums. Scott Sutherland from Des Moines is going to be on bass. Good guys like my little brother Ken Valdez. He's a monster on guitar. He's going to be featured, and Iowa Blues and Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member Tom Giblin is going to be on keys, and so it's going to be a good show.
Excellent. Are you in the Iowa Blues Hall of Fame?
I am. They actually modified the rules to get me in because I haven't been playing music as a full-time player for 30 years. That was the old rule. Now they shortened it to 25 and snuck me in after I won the IBCs. I guess I define success by the opportunity to do things that you once dreamt of doing. You know, people are taking me and my wife to places, and sometimes me, my wife, and my kids to places that I can't afford to take us. And all I have to do to get us there is what I do. And to me, that's successful. The opportunity to know that there's some place on this planet, somebody that I don't speak the same language as, that is in a conversation and my name comes up, and the two of them look at each other, and the one goes, "Man, you ever heard of Kevin Burt?" And the one looks at him and says, "Yeah, I think I heard of him." That's pretty successful. You know, to me, you know, just knowing that at the end of the month that nothing's gonna be cut off, that's a successful feeling to me, because I've lived a lot of my life worried on whether or not I was going to find enough money, create enough money to pay the water bill or the electric bill, or make sure everybody gets fed, you know, to know that all of those things are taken care of. And then every once in a while, my family and I get to do some of the stuff that we want to do. That feels pretty successful.